Hebrides Isles of Scotland. Here, a millennia ago, Celt magic and the Vikings' warrior spirit combined to form a new fearsome race, the mighty Highland clans. From island castles like Duart and Dunvegan, the clans waged war against the Scottish crown and each other. Explore the fighting history of two castles and the Highland dynasties who made them strong, next on Great Castles of Europe. The Hebrides Islands off Scotland's western coast. From the lone shieling of the misty island, mountains divide us and the waste of seas. But still the blood is strong, the heart is Highland, and we in dreams behold the Hebrides. Through the centuries, their stark, majestic shores have drawn wave upon wave of settlers. Together they grew into the fierce rebel dynasties we know as the Highland clans. For nearly 1,000 years, the clans ruled these splendid islands as a Gaelic kingdom apart, neither Scottish nor English, but Highlander. Perhaps it was their fierce independence that kept them from succeeding as a nation. But by the 19th century, the island dynasties had all but vanished, pushed aside by intruding monarchies and sent in search of their fortunes across the Atlantic. Today, two mighty clan castles survive to remind us of the rough-hewn splendor of the Highland clan's golden age. Duart Castle on the island of Mull was the stately stronghold of the MacLean clan. From Duart, the MacLeans waged war on Scotland and England, but saved their most savage campaigns for rival clans. On the island the Vikings named Skye, majestic Dunvegan Castle is the kingly residence of the Clan MacLeod. Dunvegan is Scotland's longest continually occupied residence, owing perhaps to the MacLeod's long-time dealings with the little people, the fairies, the isle's fabled source of luck and longevity. Narrowly defined, a clan is a group of kin whose members claim common ancestry. For people around the world who return each year to the Scottish Highlands, a clan is something more. It is a bond to a bygone era of fierce loyalties, blood feuds, and the heartland itself, a place of myth and mystery where the Highland clans were born. According to clan lore, their ancient origins began with the Darkland, a world inhabited by magical creatures said to thrive in the islands, the fairies. The fairies, or little people, dwell in nature's between times, dawn and dusk, mist and shadow. Laying eyes on them has brought many a clansman good luck, or lifelong torment.
TLC will return with Great Castles of Europe.
This portion of the Learning Channel is brought to you in part by Buick.
Andre and Michelle are falling in love with America and their Park Avenue Ultra. They love the stopping power of Ultra's anti-lock brakes. They love the security of Ultra's dual airbags. And they have warm feelings about Ultra's available heated driver's seat. It's going to be a wonderful tour. Andre and Michelle are in love with a car that's as good as its name. Ultra from Buick, the new symbol for quality in America.
I try to ignore my sensitive teeth, but they hurt.
Don't ignore your sensitive teeth. Sensodyne helps stop the pain that can make you stop brushing. Could lead even to tooth loss.
Thanks, Sensodyne.
Trust Sensodyne, the dentist's choice for sensitive teeth.
You mean if I call my son in college the most, Sprint pays half?
Now there's a new reason to switch to the most.
What if I told you he goes to college in Japan?
No problem. Call anyone, anywhere, anytime, and Sprint will split the bill on the person you call most.
I don't suppose there's anything you could do about his tuition bill.
Sorry, we have to draw the line somewhere.
Call now and save 50% with Sprint's calling plan, the most.
French Vanilla Cafe. Rich, creamy tasting coffee with a kiss of French vanilla flavor. Coffee so enchanting, you'll fall in love. French Vanilla Cafe. Regular and new sugar-free.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Distant stars, nearby planets, space odysseys, incredible journeys. Explore the galaxies in a breathtaking series of shows as Tom Selleck hosts 10 back-to-back episodes of The Practical Guide to the Universe. Friday night beginning at 9 on the Learning Channel.
Great Castles of Europe now returns on TLC.
On hilltops, the Celts erected the Hebrides' first permanent structures, sometime between 100 and 300 A.D. This is a broch, once a 40-foot mountain of stone built around a spacious inner courtyard. From these crude castles, the Celts could wage war on the Picts and protect surrounding villages and herds. They could also put up a staunch defense against more sophisticated invaders arriving by sea, like Roman slave traders, and later the Vikings. The foundation for the wall and the courtyard make up the broch's simple but effective design. Its defensive wall was really two walls. From walkways built between them, defenders could run to portals overlooking the terrain below. The walkways also provided storage space and insulation against the Hebrides' piercing winds. Among the items stored here would have been the chief's collection of human heads, claimed after battle to garner their strength. By the 5th century A.D., the Hebrides kingdom of Celts had tamed the isles and developed strong defenses against raiders arriving on their shores. In the 6th century, the waves delivered one invader who wasn't after Celt women or their herds. This traveler and his 12 companions would change Celt religious belief forever. He was an Irish priest named Columba, and on the Isle of Iona, he founded the Hebrides Isles' most sacred place. Today, these ornate Celtic crosses mark the site of Columba's original abbey, replaced in the 13th century by a Benedictine monastery. According to legend, when St. Columba founded his abbey, he was met by the island's chief Celtic priests, or Druid. The Druid insisted on being buried alive in the building's foundation as kind of a good luck charm. Before Columba's arrival, Iona had long been a center for pagan ritual. Its Celtic crosses show how sacred pagan shapes, celebrating nature and the seasons, were tamed within the imposing symbol of the crucifixion. St. Columba Christianized the islands, and in the 6th century established Iona as Scotland's foremost center for religious learning. He died in 597 and is said to be buried beneath one of the time-worn stones in the abbey's ancient graveyard. Because of this, Iona became a site of Christian pilgrimage and the burial place for both clan chiefs and early Scottish monarchs. The tombs shed light on the bloody struggles that united the Inner Hebrides under a culture of warriors who arrived by sea. They were the Vikings. The island's peace was shattered in 794 when the fearsome dragonhead on the bow of Viking ships turned its horrible gaze upon the Hebrides. At first, the Vikings came merely to plunder, which they did after slaughtering the abbey's monks and island dwellers. By the 10th century, however, they had built a formidable Viking empire off Scotland's western coast. Within a few generations, the islands had worked their magic, and the Norse invaders little resembled their forebears. Most Viking leaders were now Christian, and in their veins Norse, Celt, and even Pict blood freely mingled. They had become a breed apart and dominated the Hebrides Isles by force of arms. With them begins the story of the Highland clans. The clans were distinct groups of kin who, in the island tradition, held land in common and were ruled by a chief. Their enemies were pirates, competing clans, and any agent of Scotland's crown. Although the Scottish rulers and the clans were not too distant relatives, separated by just a little water, their views on government were oceans apart. Scotland was feudal. All lands were royal lands, owned by the king. This idea clashed violently with the clan's belief in family patriarchy. Castles sprang up throughout the inner Hebrides to protect the clan way of life. Most have been reduced to ruin, but some still survive. On Mull Island, the Clan MacLean built castles by the dozen. Moy Castle is essentially a fortified house, but a big improvement on the earlier Celt Brochs. Norse Vikings were the primary influence on its defensive features. According to island lore, its stones came from the castle of a MacLean rival. By the 12th century, the Normans had developed a better design, and on Mull Island, the MacLeans took advantage of it. The clan's Elan-Donan Castle is a stone version of the mound and courtyard fortresses the Normans used throughout their invasion of the British Isles. How the MacLeans won control of Mull Island is a tale of the Highlands' ever-shifting balance of power. Early in the 14th century, the King of Scotland allied with the Clan Donald to try and gain control over the islands. For their loyalty, the Clan Donald, later MacDonald, was awarded vast estates throughout the Inner Hebrides. In 1337, John MacDonald inherited these lands and the allegiance of the smaller clans who occupied them. In honor of this, he was given a title the clans devised themselves, Lord of the Isles. In generations to come, the Scottish crown would regret the influence of the Highland kingship they had helped create. John MacDonald, first Lord of the Isles, had cause to regret it much sooner. He was kidnapped by two brothers from the fiercest clan in his domain, the MacLeans. At the point of a sword, they made MacDonald promise two things: forgiveness for having just murdered a rival clan chief, and land. The entire island of Mull, including magnificent Duart Castle, thereby came into possession of the fighting clan MacLean. From a high crag jutting out into the channel between Mull and the mainland, Duart Castle dominated trade between Scotland and the islands. Through medieval times, the MacLeans enmeshed themselves in dozens of bloody inter-clan disputes, as well as the centuries-long struggle between the Highlanders and Scotland's crown. It was during a feud with the MacDonalds that the sea brought the MacLeans an unexpected treasure. In the midst of the fight, blown off course by a storm, came a galleon from the Spanish Armada. In exchange for their help in fighting the MacDonalds, the MacLean chief promised the unwitting Spanish that he'd provision their ship. The MacLeans provided hostages to seal the bargain. Before the Spanish could return from the fight, their galleon anchored off Duart Castle mysteriously exploded, killing the crew and the MacLean hostages on board. Legend has it that the ship was sunk by the Macleans themselves so they could recover its treasure with a minimal loss of family members. Upon their return to Duart, the hapless Spanish were imprisoned and in Duart's dungeon spent the rest of their lives.
TLC will return with Great Castles of Europe.
They are more precious than gold. Sweeter than the honey. They are more precious than gold. They make wine.
With 3 hours of breathtaking picture and sound on a single tape, and instant playback at the touch of a button, nothing portrays the moments that color our lives like a Sony Handycam camcorder. It's your life. Isn't it worth a Sony?
He packs heavy. She packs light. She wears silk. He wears wool. He's comfortable at 68 degrees. She prefers 72. Good thing they own a Buick Park Avenue with available dual-zone climate control. 72 for her, 68 for him. Too bad everything isn't as accommodating as Park Avenue. From Buick, the new symbol for quality in America.
Did you know? There's a special place just for preschoolers weekday mornings on cable TV.
We knew that.
With 6 hours of programs and no commercials.
Knew it.
Well, did you know there's one cable channel that has all this and actually makes learning fun?
Knew it!
Well then, did you know there's a place where there's a...
Knew it!
I didn't say anything yet. Ready, Set, Learn weekday mornings on the Learning Channel. Now you know too.
I took diet pills. I lost 34 pounds.
6 months later, the weight came back.
That's when I decided to get off the diet roller coaster and get on a Nordic Track.
In fact, Nordic Track is so easy to stick with that after 5 years, 7 out of 10 Nordic Track owners still use their Nordic Track skiers an average of 3 times a week.
It's been more than 2 years. The weight's still off, and I'm still on my Nordic Track. You should give Nordic Track a try.
Call now for a free video and brochure. Take weight off and keep it off. Nordic Track introduces the Weight Loss Satisfaction Guarantee. Research shows that Nordic Track's total body workout burns more calories than exercisers that only work your legs. Discover what numerous customers have found. With regular exercise on Nordic Track, you can take weight off and keep it off. And we're so confident you'll lose weight too, we guarantee it. We'll guarantee that you'll lose at least 10 pounds in 60 days or your money back. Call now for a free video and brochure and about our 60-day Weight Loss Satisfaction Guarantee.
Great Castles of Europe now returns on TLC.
In the 15th century, clan chief Lachlan Maclean wed a lady from the Campbell clan to cement an alliance with that powerful family. The marriage led to disaster. One story is that his wife Elizabeth carried on a clandestine affair with an English lover. Maclean got wind of the relationship and devised to get rid of his wife without being blamed for her murder. He abandoned Elizabeth Campbell on a rock he knew would be covered by the incoming tide. Fortunately for her, fishermen saw her plight and rescued her from what is now called the Lady's Rock. Elizabeth went to the home of her brother, where Lachlan Maclean turned up the next day to report her death. He was knifed in his sleep and promptly found his way back here, the Maclean family graveyard, next to Duart Castle. According to many accounts, Lachlan makes an uneasy ghost, disturbing the final rest of all the Maclean chiefs, great and small. The clan's proudest era was 5 centuries ago. Inside Duart, a collection of artifacts and finery traces Maclean history in more modern times. This statuette in Duart's banqueting hall is the likeness of the clan's most recent chief, Sir Charles Hector Maclean. These objects honor clan chiefs past and present. The christening mugs, flasks, and tureens here are gifts from heads of state and Maclean clan organizations around the world. Some of the items were presented to Sir Charles Hector Maclean in this century for his service to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. No self-respecting clan chief went anywhere without his brooch and dirk. The brooch kept his kilt on, while the dirk, a traditional dagger, kept his enemies at a distance. Today, Duart's era of swordplay is past, and the castle is a place of homage for tourists and clan members in search of their roots. They find them in 3 centuries of clan leaders whose portraits keep alive the dramatic history of the MacLeans of Duart Castle, the Highlands' fiercest clan. For another of the Inner Hebrides' great castles and great clans, the past is present. Their home is the enchanted Isle of Skye. Clan MacLeod has continuously occupied mighty Dunvegan Castle for the last 750 years. A fortress of some kind has existed here since the time of Christ. The clan founder was Laud, son of one of the region's last Viking kings. Despite centuries of inter-clan warfare and Scotland's attempts to break up the clans, the heirs of Laud held on to Dunvegan against all comers. The strength of the clan chiefs might account for the MacLeod's longevity at Dunvegan, but some say their secret lies in the clan's connection to the Hebrides fairy kingdom, called the Darkland. In the 18th century, the 23rd chief, Norman, set about enlarging and reconstructing the castle's living quarters, including the dining room and study in Victorian style. The castle's largest suite is the dining room, home to ancestral portraits that cover 300 years of MacLeod family history. These chiefs held power after Scotland had subdued the clans. Notable among them is Flora MacLeod, one of the first women to be named clan chief. She founded dozens of MacLeod clan associations worldwide. Guarded in their castle is one of the clan's most powerful treasures, a silver chalice called the Dunvegan Cup. It forms one of the clan's ancient links to the fairy kingdom of Celtic fable.